She's still going?
Alexigender, alias gender, ambergender, ambigender, neck.
Hello, Patrick Christys here. Thanks for watching. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel. Now today, we're diving into a story that should have every freedom-loving individual on high alert. Ireland, that Emerald Isle, known for its rich history and warm hospitality, has just taken a worrying step towards what some are calling a dystopian future. The Criminal Justice Act 2024, better known as the Hate Crime Bill, has officially become law. Now, you might be thinking, Patrick, surely tackling hate is a good thing. Well, hold on to your hats, because this isn't your run-of-the-mill legislation. No, not at all. President Michael Higgins put pen to paper on Tuesday, signing this controversial bill into law. And while the government is patting itself on the back, alarm bells are ringing for free speech advocates across the country. So let's break this down, shall we? The bill introduces harsher sentences for crimes motivated by hatred. Now, on the surface, that might sound reasonable, but here's where it gets a bit murky. The definition of hatred is about as clear as a pint of Guinness. Now, some of you might remember that certain parts of the original bill were removed, those dealing with incitement to violence and hatred. But don't breathe a sigh of relief just yet. Green Party leader Roderick O'Gorman has already vowed that if his party remains in power after the November election, they'll be pushing for even more hate speech legislation. It's like they're saying, don't worry, folks, we'll be back to finish the job. But let's focus on what's actually in the law, shall we? One of the most contentious points is its definition of gender. Now, brace yourselves, because it's a doozy. According to the bill, gender includes, and I quote, the gender of a person or the gender which a person expresses as the person's preferred gender or with which the person identifies, and includes transgender and a gender other than those of male or female. You got that? Okay, now, I'm not the one to mince my words here, but that definition is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? It's so broad and vague that it could potentially encompass just about anything. And when laws are this ambiguous, they become dangerous tools if they are placed into the wrong hands. But don't just take my word for it. The bill passed through Parliament, remarkably, with a vote of 78 to 50, despite fierce opposition from both politicians and free speech groups. Critics argue that this law is nothing short of an attack on free speech, with some going as far as to say it's like pushing Ireland towards oppression and tyranny. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Look, hey, come on, Patrick. Isn't this just a bit dramatic? Well, let me tell you something. When governments start policing speech, it's a slippery slope. Today, it's hate speech. Tomorrow, it could be any speech they disagree with. But perhaps the most telling moment in this whole debacle came during a debate in the Irish Senate. Senator Sharon Keegan, bless her, spent 25 minutes, yes, you heard that right, 25 minutes listing the genders that they could have to Justice Minister Helen McEntee. Let's just take a little look at that clip, shall we?
If we are to accept the government's definition, this would mean there would be at least 72 genders, which could include, but are not limited to.
All right, now, let's just have a little listen to some of these genders. Because with a bill like this, the best thing that you can possibly do is ridicule it and hope it goes away. So here we go.
Agender, ambigender, adamasgender, aerogender, anisogender, affectogender, agender flux, alexigender, alias gender, ambergender, ambigender, neck.
Yeah, I think, hang on a minute, is she still going? Should we just check it? I think she might still be going, actually.
Gender, gender, log gender.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that last one, but the others seemed absolutely fine to me. And I don't know about you, but if it takes 25 minutes to list all of the genders covered by this law, I'd say that we might have a little problem on our hands. It's like they're trying to legislate for every possible permutation of human identity. And while that might sound inclusive, it's actually a recipe for chaos.
Please forgive me if I do pronounce some of these wrong. They're quite extensive, and if I do offend anybody in reading this out and making mistakes, I apologise.
Yeah, and yet, even after all of this, there was still plenty more to come, wasn't there? I don't know if we can we check back in with her?
Dentrogender, Hayden gender, halogender. Sorry. Halogender.
Yeah, I mean, I had to clear my throat then as well, to be honest. Look, just think about it, right? If the law is this broad and this vague, how on earth is it going to be enforced? Are we going to need a dictionary of genders just to navigate daily conversations? Will people be afraid to speak their minds for fear of falling foul to this labyrinth legislation? I mean, I think, oh gosh, she's still going.
Temple flux, XY gender and asylo gender. It's worth noting that if you were to accept our amendments today, you might avoid the possibility of a constitutional referendum later down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely absurd, isn't it? You wouldn't want to, infuriate the exogenders accidentally, even though no one knows what they are. Let's not forget, okay, this is just the beginning. The Green Party has already signalled its intention to push for more hate speech laws if they remain in power. It is like they've got a taste for censorship and they're coming back for seconds. Now, I'm all for protecting vulnerable people. No one should face discrimination or hatred because of who they are. But there's a world of difference between protecting people and policing speech. Now, this law, with its vague definitions, broad scope, seems to be doing more of the latter than the former. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, folks, I think it's simple. We need to watch closely how this law is implemented and enforced. And most importantly, we need to stand up for our right to free speech, because once that's gone, it's a long, hard road to get it back. And remember, it's not just about Ireland. Laws like this have a way of spreading. Today it's Dublin. Tomorrow it could be London or New York or Sydney. I mean, this is a canary in the coal mine, and we do well to pay attention. So to our friends across the Irish Sea, I say this: stay strong, stay vocal, and don't let them silence you. And to everyone else watching, let this be a wake-up call, because freedom of speech isn't just some abstract concept. It's the bedrock of a free society, and it's up to all of us to protect it. And that's all for tonight, folks. This is Patrick Christys reminding you to keep speaking your mind while you still can.